Hi everybody, it's Cindy at Upcycle Design Lab. Did you know you could melt glass in your microwave? Well, until a few days ago I had no idea you could do such a thing. But there's a product made by Fuseworks. It's a small microwave kiln that goes in your microwave and catches the microwaves and heat gets hot enough to actually melt glass so that you can melt this into these. The first step is to cut the glass, and if you watched my last video you saw how I rather unsuccessfully used a bottle cutter, but it did leave me with quite a few big pieces of glass to work with. You need a scoring tool, some pliers. I just am using regular pliers. They make special pliers for glass, and then I have these wheeled nippers that I just bought and I'm kind of learning how to use. You can also use a Sharpie to mark the shapes so that you can cut along that line. I also have this plastic sort of cutting grid that helps, you can see through the glass and it helps me to draw a straight line. I tried using a ruler, but I didn't like that as well. And then once you've made your scores, you can make some nice straight cuts. To use the nippers, you just place the glass between the nipper and just kind of press down and it does cut. You can also use it to trim off smaller pieces. It doesn't make a real smooth cut, but it does sort of help you to shape things other than just cut on straight lines. Right now I'm just working with two different colors of glass. I have some brown and some green, and so I'm using these tins to kind of catch a lot of the scraps. You do want to be sure and wear some safety glasses because the glass, even though I try to kind of catch it in my hand, it does tend to fly everywhere, so you want to kind of try to catch as much of it as you can. I have a couple of different ideas for designs in my head, but right now I'm just kind of learning and playing around, so I'm practicing and cutting some different shapes, seeing how straight of the cuts I can get and also how small of pieces I can break down to. Once you have some pieces cut and your designs laid out, you're ready to use the microwave kiln. To use the microwave kiln, you need some kiln paper underneath your design to protect the actual kiln. That's the paper you see in this picture. And then I've just laid out some small squares in sort of a random teardroppy kind of icicles shape. I'm using the smallest of the kilns, and this particular one takes about 2 to 3 minutes to heat up completely. So this is after 2 minutes. You can see it's still kind of dark. There's some red, but it's fairly dark. So I set it for another 30 seconds. It's a little redder, you can see here in this picture. And then I gave it a final 15 seconds because I didn't want my glass to be flat. I wanted it to have some of the shape left, but just be fused together. Once the kiln is heated completely and the glass is fused, you need to remove the kiln from the microwave and let it cool off for a half an hour to 45 minutes. This is what my pieces looked like after the first firing, and as you can see, one of them was very easy to break apart. So I put them back in the kiln for another 2 minutes plus 30 seconds. You can see it's getting much redder here. And then another 15 seconds again. After the pieces were cool, I removed them from the kiln. And sometimes there's a little bit of this paper backing that is on the back of them. You can just rinse that off with some water once they're cool enough. You can see these are a little bit more fused. One of them turned out much smoother than the other one. I was kind of surprised that they were that different. These didn't turn out to be my favorite pieces, so I may refuse them or just put them aside, but it's nice to know that you can put them back in the microwave and melt them more than once. A few of my pieces I had some really rough edges, so I have this tile sanding block that I just used to knock down some of the more pointed parts of the pieces. These two pieces are an example of the different results that you can get by leaving the piece in the kiln for a longer period of time and heating it up a little bit more. This first piece has a lot more definition in the pieces still, even though it's very well fused together. And this second piece, you can see, is flatter and smoother on the top just because it was actually in the kiln and heated longer. I'm not a jewelry making expert, but I did use some 26-inch gauge wire and some jewelry pliers to finish my pieces and turn them into pendants and earrings. To do this, I just unwrapped some of the wire for about 6 to 8 inches and cut the piece off. And then I used the jewelry pliers to wrap 3 rings around the rounded tip of the jewelry pliers. I used some needle nose pliers to tighten the coil, and then put it back on the jewelry pliers and twisted the 2 ends a couple of times just to tie it off. Once you have the ring made, you're ready to wrap the piece of glass. And this, I used a tiny bit of E6000 glue just to kind of secure the ring to the top of my piece. And then I just kind of randomly wrapped it around and tightened the ends, trimming them off as I needed to. And you can use the needle nose pliers just to kind of push the ends in so that they don't get caught on things. Here are some examples of some other shapes that I made, from what they look like when I cut the pieces to what they look like when they were laid out and then fired in the kiln and made into jewelry. I tried several different shapes and ideas, and it's been really fun to play with the kiln and to see what it can do. So that's it. Thanks for watching my first attempts at fusing glass in my microwave, and I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel for more upcycling adventures.